So many things have changed since I started traveling internationally 20 years ago. I have five things that I want to talk about today that are completely different, or they were brand new things when I started traveling all those years ago. I'm Kaylin. If you haven't met me, I've been traveling internationally for the last 20 years. I've been to all seven continents twice, and I'm at 30 countries and counting. So let's talk about some of the things that have changed for the past 20 years. The first one that blows my mind that there are people who don't know what this item is calling cards. I mentioned calling cards earlier this year to someone who's younger than me, thinking nothing of it. And this person looked at me like I had crawled out from under a rock. And that was when it hit me that they have never known a world that's not connected by the phone that's in your pocket. So back in the day, if you've never heard of a calling card, you had this card, paper card, and you could load it with whatever amount of money that you wanted or needed for your travels. And then you had a separate card that had a bunch of numbers you had to dial depending on the country you were in. It had your country codes, it had like a phone number, and then you went through this whole process while you were on the phone to be able to call internationally. And a lot of times this was a phone call that you would take down in a hotel lobby. There was like a little separate room or a little nook, and they had different phones there, 2, 3 phones for you to use, and that was how you did it. And calling cards were readily available. You could easily pick one up at your grocery store in the checkout line, and it was just that was the way it was. Cell phones, gosh, this was 2005. So cell phones were still the bricks in our pocket. They were just kind of becoming a thing. So before the iPhone, which is so funny because now I'm recording this on an iPhone, the world has completely changed. It's incredible to me to think that 20 years ago, when I landed somewhere, I couldn't immediately connect and text my friends, my family to let them know that I had arrived and that I was, on my way to my hotel or whatever it happened to be. And now today, my phone connects automatically when I land to whatever the local service is, and I just keep moving on as if nothing had changed, as if I've never left the United States, which is where I'm based. And if that fails, my international plan fails, there's always the option to buy an eSIM or a physical SIM, depending on the phone. I can no longer buy a physical SIM, but an eSIM and connect. So it's wild to me to think that 20 years ago, none of that was possible, but today it is. Um, I'm tapping this to see if my kitten, who's not very kitten anymore, will come join us. If you haven't met her before, her name is Munch. She's my tabby and my little helper, and she always loves to help and join me. She's currently staring at me. We'll see if she joins. So let's move on to the second thing that's completely different. Navigation. Now we all open up our phones and we have Google Maps, Apple Maps, 100 other map options in our phones in the palm of our hand. Anywhere we go, we can look things up. We're connected, and that is so different. When I first went overseas internationally 20 years ago, if I remember correctly, Google Maps was only 149 days old. Wild. I would hazard a guess that it was only available on a PC. I don't actually know if that is fact or not. I would have to look it up, but it was certainly not in my pocket. That's wild. It's just to think that in 20 years, we have maps in our pockets that are digital and interactive and searchable and everything else that comes with that. 20 years ago, everything was paper, and you'd show up somewhere and you would go to the tourist office and you'd get a tourist map, and it would show you highlights of where things are. I mean, these things are still available. You've probably seen them, but 20 years ago, that was all you had. So just completely different. I was like, life is so much easier now with Google Maps or any other map service that you use, but it's still fun to pick up a paper map. I usually do when I'm overseas. I love to just see the things that the tourist office has highlighted, or maybe the hotel highlights, the hostel, your Airbnb host, wherever you're staying. It's just a way to kind of connect without going through Google. So another thing that has changed, speaking of having a phone in your pocket in your hotel and your Airbnb, is booking literally anything. It's so easy today to pull out your phone, find a hotel, a hostel, an Airbnb, reviews. You can give them a call. You can book right there, pay for it. You receive your booking confirmation instantly. It's all in the palm of your hand, and off you go. And it's not just for accommodation; it's for your transportation, whether that's taxis, airplanes, trains, buses, anything, literally anything you need to book for your trip is in the palm of your hand. That was not the way it was 20 years ago. You still had, I mean, the internet maybe was, I was young, mind you, I was young, but the internet, was still becoming huge, and companies were still moving online, and you'd call your travel agent, or you would call your airline, you'd call the hotel. I I was very young, and my first trips very much were handled by the adults, but it was so different. Now, I mean, I can anywhere I am. It doesn't matter if I'm in my house, on the beach, on a boat. I've booked things in just like the most random places, and it's all in the pocket of it's just wild. I've said wild 100 times, but it really is just mind blowing to me to look at the changes that have come about. And that leads to another thing that we now all have in our pockets that was not available 20 years ago, and that is our phone cameras. 20 years ago, I want to say, a 4 megapixel camera, and it still took AA batteries. So when I went overseas, we were advised to go to Costco and buy the biggest pack of AA batteries you could find and take it with you in your suitcase. To me, that's just unfathomable today, to think back to having just a huge pack of AA batteries to power your 4 megapixel camera, which was the latest and greatest and coolest thing. And on top of it, the weight in your suitcase of having this pack of, I can't even remember, 24, 36, 48 batteries, and going through them like crazy. And memory cards, you had tons of memory cards that were maybe, I don't even know, like 16, 32 gigs. They were tiny. And now you have your camera in your pocket. You have your video camera in your pocket. I remember the first video camera I had, and it was little like micro DVDs that you could burn, and the thing was like probably like this big. I couldn't even tell you, and it was, I'm sure, not great quality compared to what we have today, whether that's your camera or some other piece of your phone camera or some other camera device that you bring with you. Is just mind blowing to me. And then the storage, everything is either on your phone or in the cloud or both. It's completely changed the game. I can say I've gone on trips where I didn't even bring my real camera with me. I just went with my phone, and I have great pictures. I'm not looking to blow pictures up to a huge size. So for me, it works. It's great. Things are shared digitally. It's crazy. It's crazy to think in 20 years how far we've come. And speaking of cloud and digital and everything being in your pocket, my last example of things that have changed are documents, your travel documents. I remember back in the day, I had everything printed. I had boarding passes printed, hotel confirmations printed, other tickets, whether that was for like trains, or if I had booked a tour or bought tickets to even, I don't even know, like a show or something. it was all printed. I had a file of literally all the paperwork, and now all of that's digital. It's in my email, or I just downloaded the files on my phone, or I don't know, you take a screenshot. It used a QR code. None of that existed 20 years ago. And I will say, I still think it's very important, depending on where you're going and what you're doing, to print some of these documents out. Because believe it or not, things do happen and technology decides not to work. Most recently, I was trying to get from US Terminal 5 to Terminal 3 at London Heathrow, so domestic to international. And phone worked great when I left the first airport in England. I was already in England, and got on the ground at London, and my phone decided it was not going to connect to the local cell phone service. It was not going to connect to the Heathrow Wi-Fi, and I needed my boarding pass, which I actually didn't even have because the airline would not let me check in until I was in person. They needed to do a passport check. So I needed my booking. I needed to show the security that I actually needed to transfer terminals and that I was booked with the airline. And phone decided it wasn't going to work. It it was an experience. They were kind enough to believe me and let me through, and everything worked out fine. I was able to find, a airline representative and get everything sorted. But wished in that moment I had at least taken a screenshot, if not printed everything out. So all that to say, yes, 20 years ago everything was print and paper, and nowadays it's not. But I still think there is value in being conscious that there are some documents you really should have with you. We have a hard copy of with you. All that to say, those are the top 5 things I've noticed changed significantly. If you want to read more about my last 20 years of international travel experience, I put together a PDF. It's completely free. I'll drop the link below. There is an auction for donations. Any donations go to the Line Dance Foundation. If you don't know, I am a big dancer. I love line dancing, among many other forms of dance. And Line Dance Foundation, the work they do is near and dear to my heart. So feel free. It goes everybody in the industry. It's a great cause. I'll drop their link too if you want to look them up. Otherwise, check out the blog, check out other videos, join my little corner of the internet, come hang out, or move on. Either way, you're not obligated to stay. But, if you want to come see Munch, she is pretty cute. So, catch you on the next one. Bye.